Okay, good.
Good afternoon, everyone. Here we are in the holy city of Tzfat, in the Holy Alshech synagogue, and we're going to be learning Tavo, the Parshat this week, all about the importance of gratitude, not taking anything for granted, and to constantly remind ourselves that everything is granted from God. So let's go straight into it. And Rav Moshe this week actually does us a favor, where he goes into the discussion before asking the long question list, so that we can get into it easily. So the parasha starts off, "V'hayaki tavo el haaretz," when you will enter the land, asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha nachala, v'yirishta v'yeshavta ba, you will conquer it and inhabit it. Says Rav Moshe, "Hinei be'einei kol ro'ei," anyone that sees the mitzvah here and the details of it, et kol hacharada hahi asher charad hu yitbarach, the excitement and the fear, but in terms of, in this context, it seems to be the importance and the emphasis placed around the mitzvah. Mitzvat bikurim hazot, the mitzvah of bikurim, which we're going to be learning today. Sheyachirad ish mi beito umeiro, that a man is expected to leave his home and his city, v'yelech ragli, and to go by foot, specifically, be'eshkol anavim echad, with one bunch of grapes, umin ha'te'inim umin ha'rimunim, from figs and pomegranates, me'at miz'er lo kabir, just a very small amount, not a great amount. So we're talking about a very minuscule amount of fruit, which I think what he's referring to, he's going to say soon as well, is that you could totally send this by either regular mail or maybe just maybe a registered next day express delivery if you really want to respect it. But what's the point of this arduous journey all the way from Tzfat by walk to Jerusalem? Imagine that. So let's say the guy doesn't have grapes and figs, but he has a field of wheat. So he's going to have a handful of stalks of wheat. V'yasem b'teneh, he puts it into a basket. V'al katef yisa'enu, he has to carry it on his shoulders, meaning on his person. Im dal v'im ashir, whether he's poor or rich. V'afilu Agrippas hamelech, even the king, Agrippas, which means that the king that is Israelite, that has a portion in the land. V'yitkabtzu yachad kol bnei ir ve'ir b'mechalil makeh, and not only that, the journey was actually made with great pomp and ceremony, and we'll see in more detail soon how the people would gather together the night before. The Rambam says the entire people of the city would gather in the town square and sleep overnight in the outdoors together. In the morning they would head out together with the camels and the baskets, and it was very, very specifically done in a way that would cause great waves of the fact that the city is heading out, and there was like a whole way of making sure that everybody knew where they were heading and why they were heading. And they would play music. Every city would gather the inhabitants of the city together, b'chalil makeh, with the music and flutes playing in front of them. Uznei zmara, and different types of instruments. B'shira zimra, with musical processions. B'chol ir yavouba, every city they would cross in their journey towards Jerusalem. Yetz'u likratam zekeneh v'shofteh, the elders and the judges, the rabbim sa'area, and the ministers and the leaders of the cities would come out, lefi kvot hanichnasim, based on the amount of people that were coming. There would be a procession coming out to greet them, b'halel v'hodot l'Hashem, and they would all together join in praise and thanksgiving to the Lord. So Rav Moshe is telling us about the musical procession of all the cities and the great momentous journey that went down. V'chomish patam, and this entire procedure went along the same way through every city, day by walk, ad sharei Yerushalayim, until they reached the gates of Jerusalem. B'shor v'karnav mitzupot zahav. They would have a bull in front of them, and this bull was designated to become a peace offering, because when you bring the bikurim, there needed to be an offering as well for the purpose of simcha. It says v'samachta b'chol hatov, so they would have meat as after they sacrificed and brought the bikurim.
So with the fruit came a bull?
Yeah, the bikurim required a korban shlamim and music to be brought along with it. The Levites had to be singing, and there was another law that they had to bow when they left and then stay in Jerusalem overnight. They weren't allowed to leave straight away. So there was like a certain, like a whole procedure that came along with it, and they would actually cover the horns of the bull with gold leaf of some sort in order to decorate it. Va'atrot zayit, and they would make it like a crown out of leaves of olive leaves. That's kind of symbolizing what type of sacrifice it is. It's a sacrifice for the fruit bringing.
It's very so eggly.
I guess that's how you imagine. That's right. With like is that like what the Roman senators would wear?
Yeah.
Like a little sheath, what's it called? Yeah, but I guess interesting, yeah. I mean, as long as you bring the egel to Hashem, it all's good. When they would reach the gates of Jerusalem, Yarumu Kol Omrim, they would announce together and say, Samachti ba'omrim li, I delight when they tell me, Bet Hashem neilech, that we're going to Hashem's house. Omdot hayu ragleinu, they would rejoice in excitement, saying, oh, our feet have now reached and we're standing on the gates of Jerusalem. And this is the entire Psalm 122, which describes the jubilant cries of excitement and song that the people would exclaim as they reached Jerusalem with the Bikurim. Kekol HaKatuv BaMishnah, as all of this is described in the Mishnah in Bikurim, chapter 3, and the first 4 Mishnahs. Ma kol hacharada hazot. So now Ramosh is asking, so what is the point of all of this excessive celebration and ceremony? Al pachot mishvei chatzi dinar, for a couple of bucks worth of fruit. It seems a bit excessive and out of proportion. Omnam besom lev, if we'll pay attention. El mashe igdiru rabbeinu zal bebreshit rabbah. We're now going all the way back to the beginning of the Torah. What do the rabbis say in Parashat Bereshit? The rabbis say, Bereshit bara. Hashem created for Reshit. What does it mean for Reshit? Bishvil mitzvat bikurim. Hashem created the entire world for the mitzvah of bikurim. Shenemar ba Reshit bikurei admatecha. The first ripening of the fruits of your land you should bring to Hashem. For that itself, bara Elohim et hashamayim et haaretz. Ki alo yipaleh. Here we see even more so how the rabbis understood the significance and the greatness of this mitzvah. Ma gadla mitzvah azot. What makes this mitzvah so great? She'aleh levada nivra ha'olam, that the entire creation was worthy just for this alone. Ach hinei yadua. It is known the following: Ki olam chesed yibaneh. Hashem created the world with pure kindness. Hashem didn't owe anything to anyone when He created the world.
Future or past?
It's future. So it's talking about the time pre-creation when Hashem. There was no reason to create. There was no. Hashem didn't owe anything to anyone, so He created the world just with chesed. And I think on a more simple translation, it refers to the Hashem. I mean, not necessarily Hashem, but the people inhabiting and making the world function through chesed. Like yibaneh, meaning to build the world, to build it from chaos, kind of thing. I think that would be the more simple translation. But this is the classic verse used to describe the fact that the creation was purely based on chesed. Ki mi hikdimo v'yivre'enu. Who existed? Nobody existed before Hashem created the world, so that they would have to demand creation. Uma yakru ma'asenu. So what Moshe is telling us, that Hashem created the world with such chesed that He envisioned the mitzvot that are going to be kept and observed by the people that He creates in the future, and He already created the world with on credit, basically. And ma yakru ma'asenu shelemafreya yeh kedai li barot aleinu. So we see how special the mitzvot are, that Hashem invested the entire creation on the future mitzvot that we're going to be doing. Ki alo gam kol ma'asenu pa'alanu. The truth is, though, that even the actions that we do is Hashem doing it. Because who gives life, who gives power to do something, who gives people means and strength to do anything, it's all Hashem. As the Midrash elaborates about this, it's like who's able to praise me without a soul, without breath? Who's able to speak to me and without having children? Who's able to make a gate on the roof without having a roof? Who can make a mezuzah if you don't have a house? If you can't build a sukkah without having space to build it in. You can't buy a tzitzit without money. So basically everything we do for Hashem is obviously predicated on the fact that He's given us life and abundance to be able to serve Him. V'gam scharo ito la'olam shekulo tov v'kulo aruch. Not only that, He actually promised us, not only the fact that He's giving us the life itself based on mitzvot that He's giving us the ability to observe, He's actually also going to give us reward for that. U'mayanakeh al briat olam. Really, Hashem doesn't have to give us the reward for the mitzvot we do, because He can totally cancel out any demand for reward by saying, well, let's figure out how much I gave you before you served me, and we probably end up in the red from your side, so let's not go into that even. But He doesn't do that, right? He could cancel and take away the fact that He created the world, number one, the fact that He sustains us and gives us abundance, and gives us general good all the time. Hashem's kindness is that all He wants to do, His entire will is to do good and share His kindness. Now, the only thing He asks for us, He's like, I give you everything, and I don't expect you to owe me anything for having everything you have, and therefore the fact that we do mitzvot is considered as if we own our lives, and we own the things we own, and when we give it to Hashem, it's as if we gave it to Him. But one thing Hashem does ask from us, is to be aware that He gave us all of this. Is to be makir tova. Hakarat hatov means to be aware of the good that we were given. We should consider and pay attention to the good that Hashem's giving us and be grateful for it. V'nakir, and be aware ki hu adon hakol, to be aware that He is the master of all and everything belongs to Him. V'hu eitiv u'meitiv lanu tamid, and He's the one who has given us and will give us good constantly. Unevarech unahalelo yitbarach, we should praise and thank Him and bless Him for it. So that's the only thing He asks for us, is to not fall into denial, fall into this state of entitlement that we can naturally fall into just by getting used to the fact that we have everything we need and we want. As the Midrash says, ala pasuk amart ladonai Adonai ata. The pasuk says, I say to Hashem, you are my master. How do we know that one who benefits from this world without blessing Hashem has transgressed the sin of Ma'ila, which means stealing from or benefiting unjustly from the holy treasury? Shneimar amart l'Hashem Adonai ata. I have told Hashem that I am my master. Sheberachta al mash natan lach. So if I face Hashem and I say, I acknowledge that everything I have is from you, and you're my master, and you're the source of all of my existence. Me'az emor lefanav yitbarach tovati balalecha. So then, after you've acknowledged that, then you could say tovati balalecha, all the good that I have is not from you. Suddenly it becomes mine. It's a very strange thing. After acknowledging that it's not mine, then I can act as if it's mine. Because I'm acting within the context of knowing that it is mine, so then I can just be human. Because at the end of the day, a human being is not able to live on a daily basis or constantly knowing that nothing's ours. That would drive us crazy. Because we would just constantly be walking on tiptoes and not being able to function properly. So, but the awareness, the general awareness has to be there, and then we can act in the world as if we're in the normal human way, as if we are the ones functioning and running the show, but it has to come with the condition of the preceding acknowledgement of Hashem, which is actually an interesting thing. Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen says, his yahrzeit was 2 to 3 days ago. He says, why does the first Masechta, the first tractate in the Talmud, starts with brachot? Brachot is the idea of being aware of Hashem's existence, as we're saying now. So before we start learning, before we do anything, before we get into any type of knowledge and any type of way of how to live, number one thing is the awareness of Hashem. That's what a bracha is. That's why before we do every mitzvah, before we eat, we have to first meditate upon the idea and just get into an awareness of what's going on. Where are we? What's the context of our existence? What's the context of what we're doing? And then we can go ahead and do. After I became aware and I acknowledged that everything's from Hashem, I can now continue existing in a normal human way. Therefore, Hashem tells us to make a blessing on everything that He created, and that not only limited to eating and benefit from the world. It's also when we see beautiful things from nature and freaks of nature, and anything that's arouses a certain level of excitement, we have to channel that back to the source. As the Gemara in many places talks about the idea that we must bless and make a bracha for everything. And this is the intention of Bikurim, the fact that Hashem tells us to bring the earliest ripened crop to Him. The setting that the Torah is talking about is a Jew, after we've conquered the land, 150 years later, he's born into the land of Israel, having abundance, living in the most beautiful country with all of this shefa and natural goodness, flowing milk and honey. His father grew into this comfort, his grandfather grew into this comfort. We don't know anything else. We don't know that we were taken out of Egypt, that we went through the desert, and this is a gift that we got from Hashem. This is just life. And we know ourselves, it doesn't take very long to get used to abundance and start taking it for granted. So that's what Hashem is saying, that every person is going to find ourselves, we're going to find ourselves in the situation, shamen v'dashen, with all the goodness of the land, tachat gafno v'tachat tenato, feeling very secure and stable with our vineyards and fig trees. V'en machrid, nobody feels any lack of security, any fear of being taken away from this land. Batim mele'im kol tuva shalom yileh, houses filled with good that we didn't fill. Karamim v'zeitim ashalom ata, vineyards and olive groves that we didn't even plant. Chitao sarah l'rav ma'od, wheat and barley with great abundance. Halo yadicheni yitzro, this will cause to the Yetzer Hara to make us fall into a hardened heart situation. Bishrirut libo, it will cause the heart to become hardened. Leimor kochi v'otzem yadi, my strength and the grasp of my hand, asali tachayel hazeh, is what gave me all of this abundance and assets. So basically, a person will start thinking that it's all I'm running the show and it's all my success. Al ken tziva lanu elehei olam Hashem. Hashem is telling us, don't fall into this trap. The bilti noved chalila penishma v'niva. We shouldn't become comfortable and kick Hashem out of our lives. Ki shana b'shana nikach, every year when the crop comes through, nikach mireshit kol pri adama, we should take from the first earliest ripened fruits, v'nasim batan, and put it in a basket, v'haloch nelech adam makom asher bachar Hashem, and walk on all the way till the Beit HaMikdash that Hashem chose to rest, to place it there in front of him. What is the point of this? Says Rav Moshe, and this is something that different commentaries say as well, the theme of Bikurim is that we should know that we aren't the big boss. We are working for the big boss. And when we know that, then it's a different attitude altogether. And he says it's like when what's it called? I don't know if the word is sharecropping. Is that the word in English? You have a guy that basically works for. He's not the owner, but he works. He does all the work, and he gets a certain percent of the crop. So the same. That's why Hashem tells us, "Come into the land. I'll give you free, beautiful country. I'll just let you walk in here with relative ease, and then all I'm asking you is to realize that this is a gift." And it's a gift, it's a pending gift in the sense that if we're aware that it's a gift, if we're aware that we aren't the ones in control and it's constantly being given to us, then we can actually act as if it's ours. So let's see inside the words of the Holy Rav Moshe. This is the way of the Lord. If a person falls into the trap of thinking that the assets that he's acquired, his strength and his sophisticated business skills and planting agricultural knowledge and etc. is what caused him to be so successful. The master of all things will remove him from all of this success because he's thinking that he's the one, and Hashem's like, okay, let me see you managing on your own. I'm out, and then the guy's stuck. If Hashem sees what a person being aware that everything belongs to Hashem, Hashem will let him keep everything he has. Here Moshe explains that the relationship that Hashem wants us to have to our land is the same to a sharecropper who is working for a rich man or a landlord or owner of land, where he gets someone to work for the land and plant it and take care of it. So then, so this worker, the sharecropper, is working the whole winter. He's plowing, he's planting, he's pruning, he's taking care of the field. And then, when he sees the first fig, the first crop growing, he's like, wow, let me take this to my boss and show him what I've worked for, what I've done for him. And that is the expression of the worker knowing that he's working for someone else. And the first fruits, even though essentially the owner is not going to take the entire field, the owner doesn't need the entire field, he's going to give him most of it even. But the fact that he's taking the first fruit and running with it to the owner, presenting that he's done his job and he's worked for him, and these are the fruits of your field, that is the expression of being aware that I'm working for someone else and they are the owner. He'll take the first ripened grapevine and he'll put it into a nice bowl. He will bring it to the owner of the vineyard. Look at the beautiful, pleasant fruits of your vineyard that I worked for you in it. Here are the fruits of your field and my labor. It's all yours. You are the one who gave me the opportunity to work in your field. I didn't have the audacity to eat from these fruits until I first present to you the first ripened crops. None of it is mine. I have now brought it to you. I have placed it before you in a beautiful vessel. When the king or landowner sees, he sees the mannerisms and the attitude of this sharecropper, he says, "As Yomari hilecha kol hashar." I see how dedicated you are and how aware you are. This is my field. You can keep it. I'll let you keep all of it. I guess this guy has other fields for his own purposes, and just the fact that the loyalty and the dedication of this sharecropper blew his mind, and he's like, you can have everything else. So the same is with Hashem. Ken hadavar hazeh chita usora ukramim v'zeitim lo lanu hema. All of our fields and grain and vineyards and olive groves are not ours. Ki alo shelo yitbarach, everything is His. Ki adon hakol hu be'emet mikol habchinot. Hashem is in charge of everything from a bunch of different angles, however you look at it. And we'll see this soon as well. Al ken tziva lanu yitbarach nikach me'reishit kol peri adama. We should take from the early ripened crops, from all of the different shivat haminim, v'nasim batena, put them in a basket, v'nolich ad k'makom kol yitbarach, take it to the Hashem's place of resting, to His Beit HaMikdash, and thereby k'omrim lefanav yitbarach. This is the way we express, and we say, Lo lanu Hashem, Lo lanu. This isn't ours. Ki hakol shelcha, it's all yours. Lahorat ki mimenu yitbarach hakol. Hinei reshito navi batena. The beginning, early fruits will bring to you in a basket. Lefnei kisek v'odot, in front of your throne of glory. Kasher yuval lefnei bal hakerem, just like the sharecropper will bring to the owner of the vineyard. As hu yitbarach, if one does that, hu yitbarach noten et hakol be'emunah u'b'matana. Hashem gives you everything else and says, Al yedei yato bilti kfuya tova. As long as we are not in denial of Hashem's goodness, and we're constantly aware of the fact that He's giving us things that we don't deserve and don't belong to us, and He's happy to give us the most. V'zeh pshat ha'inyan. Now we'll go to the pasuk. The pasuk starts off, V'haya ki tavo el haaretz. And we know the general rule, V'haya means it will be happiness. Shetiyeh lecha simcha. You will be happy. Kemashma'ut kol makom shenema bo V'haya. Whenever it says V'haya, it means happy. So now what does that mean? Berotcha sha'afilu lo heitzar lecha lekovsha. You'll be so happy. You'll be in a state of gladness. With what? With the fact that you just walked into the land. Ki tavo. You just walked in as if there was no resistance. Because the conquering of the land was done with such ease and relative lack of resistance of the nations, with so much help from Hashem. That makes a person feel entitled. Because you're like, oh, all I'm doing is walking into my own home. Happens to be a squatter here, but I'm just going to kick them out, and that's it. As if he's just walked into his inheritance from his ancestors. Due to the fact that it was so easy to conquer the land, you did not pay attention. I'm the one giving it to you. It is not your strength and your military ability that gave you the land. You'll be so happy that you walked into the land, but you will forget that Hashem gave it to you. Instead, Hashem gave it to you so easily that you just automatically just conquered it and inhabited it without any problems. You will come to be arrogant and you filled with pride and entitlement. This is where the mitzvah comes in, to take the fruit. You shouldn't think that that's it. You have the land and it's a given. It's given already. You take it for granted. It's constantly, Hashem's constantly giving us the land, because it's not over. At any given time, if we're not appreciative to the gift of the land, that's it. Hashem's going to take it away. If you do this mitzvah of gratitude, I'm actually going to be giving it to you constantly. However, if we forget to be grateful, the land will be forsaken from you. You will be taken from it. The first thing you need to say is, I brought the fruits to Hashem, and I've placed it before Hashem. If you do this mitzvah, the pasuk finishes off, "V'samachta b'chol hatov," you will actually be happy, you'll be delighting in all of the good that I'm giving you. Ki'ilu kol hatov ani notna lecha. As if I'm giving you all of this good, because like we said, if a person is only just grateful, all we need is gratitude. If we are grateful, then we actually receive the gift of life and it becomes ours, we're actually deserving of it. All it is gratefulness. Hashem tells us, put it in the basket. And he should himself bring it. There's a mitzvah of the person himself should come and carry it on his own. We know that the law was that rich people of means, had to bring the bikurim in gold or silver vessels. However, poor people would bring them in wicker baskets made out of peeled willow branches. And the difference between a rich person and a poor person was the rich person got to take home his basket, his gold bowl, whereas the poor person had to give the fruits with the basket.
Wow.
And the Gemara even jokingly or not so jokingly remarks that here we see that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Because this poor guy, all he has is a wicker basket and he has to lose that as well, whereas the rich guy gets to keep it. But the truth is that Malbim says a very powerful idea. Malbim says that Hashem doesn't want to keep the rich man's silver elaborate bowl. Why? Because he bought it in the shop. He's got money, no big deal. He went ahead and bought it. So Hashem says, okay, take it back home to use it at home. But this poor man went down to the river and chopped some branches, peeled them, painstakingly wove it into a basket, just for this mitzvah, with his whole heart, kept it pure and holy, and put his entire love and gratitude into the basket. That's the type of basket Hashem wants. So it's actually a zchut for the poor person, that he has the ability to bring a basket filled with love and passion. And that's why actually they say, the question the commentators ask is, why don't we, a lot of times we see that we make a rule in order to avoid embarrassment. We say everybody has to have, like for example on the 15th of Av, everybody has to borrow clothes, so that the poor people shouldn't, even rich people must borrow. So that people that don't have shouldn't become obvious that they don't have. So here, why don't we say everybody should bring a wicker basket, so we shouldn't know the difference in class. But here it's the other way around. It's only the poor people that get the honor and the opportunity to bring a wicker basket. The rich guy is like, oh, I wish I could do a wicker basket. They're like, no, sucks to be rich. You don't get to bring your basket to Hashem. So that's the point of the basket. So here, the Rav Moshe is going to tell us that the rich guy, he gets to bring a gold basket, a gold bowl, shuderach kavod, which is an extra honor for Hashem. V'hu kedin ke'inyan amorid arisin al nechse ishto. So this is a very interesting thing. It's a very interesting thing that there's a law. This is a very an interesting halacha regarding a husband and wife. So there's a law that every woman that gets married, according to Torah law, if she owns property that she received inheritance or whatever, the husband gets to actually take all the yields from the fields and the rent, whatever the fields are producing, whatever the assets are producing. Now, what if the husband planted and worked in the field and hired workers the entire planting season and sowing season? And now what happens is he divorces her. Does he get to get back at least how much he invested? Or does he get to keep the fruits? Right? So like now that he can't continue enjoying it, is he at least allowed to get his investment back? So the law is that if he hasn't eaten any of the fruits, like he invested the whole winter, and he hasn't reaped any rewards from his work, then he gets to demand his expenses back. But if he even had one fruit from the entire yield, then we say you got what you invested in that fruit, and the rest all belongs to her. So Rav Moshe is now comparing this halacha to Hashem and the people. Hashem says, who made all of this produce grow? I invested rain, nutrition, sunlight, all that needs to make things grow. So really it's all my fruit. But what do? We give Hashem one fruit, and then we get to keep the rest. Just like the halacha is with the husband, that if he has one fruit, then that's what he's getting for his entire work, and the rest belongs to the woman. So it's an interesting comparison, but that seems to be the point of, like, sometimes you can just get one fruit, and that in that one fruit is the entire payment for the great investment. One who brings and pays and invests for his wife's assets. Even though he invested and paid he invested a lot of money. If he ate even one dried fig, but in a way of honor. So this is Moshe is adding here that the law is only if he ate it in a way of honor, meaning he ate it like in an honorable way. He took it home and ate it, not that he ate it like in the field or something. He took it, was given it in a way that he reaped the yields of his fruit into like an owner. So then everything he's invested, he received with this one fruit. Ken hu yitbarach, the same applies to Hashem. Af al pi shemimenu yitbarach hakol, everything is from him. Kmo shamru chazal, aser ta'aser. Just like Hashem says, give ma'aser. And this is interesting because this is also the theme of the next segment in the Torah after the Bikurim is the Parshat of Maaser, how we have to make sure to all the Maaser to be the Maaser and the tithes to be given at the end of every 3-year cycle, and the theme of Maaser is where Hashem says, I give you the land, I give you the nutrition and the ability that anything should grow, so I deserve at least 35%, 50%, 70%. All Hashem takes is 10%, and He says to give it to the Kohen. So the same thing is here. That here, on the other hand, when it comes to Bikurim, it's even less. When it comes to Bikurim, he should take everything. Ach Omer Hu Yitbarach, Hashem says, "B'mer shetaviu reshit kol pri derech kavod." If you bring me just one fruit in a way of honor, kol ma shehotzeti v'asiti machol lachem, everything I invested and put into this field, I let you keep. Mizrat Hashem, we should merit to have lots of gratitude and receive lots of shefa from Hashem. Jazakum Baruch.